Hello viewers, this is Mitul here. In this module 7, we would be covering about data manipulation commands, which is like insert command, update and the delete command. So let's get started. First table I'll be creating is fruit table, then I'm creating student result table, and then the third is unique ID. Three of these tables has different fields. The first table has ID and name, integer type and varchar. The second table has an identity column created for the ID column, right? So 1 comma 1 is like starting with 1 and incremented by 1. Second column is student name, marks obtained, marks out of, and then the result. What I'll be doing is like I'll be inputting 3 subject. Each paper or each subject is of 100 marks. Out of 300 marks in total for 3 subjects, the whatever score that student has obtained is what I'll be inputting into this marks obtained column. Okay, and then the result column I'll be keeping it initially null, and then we'll do as per the score that they have obtained out of 300. Whatever score they have obtained, based on that we will set their results. Okay, so let's just see. And then the third one is the unique identifier that will be creating the field of. Okay, so let's just create all 3 tables. Okay, I'll be using the learning DB as usual that we've been using. Okay, now first of all we'll try to insert the multiple rows to the table. See, first syntax of insert is like insert into a particular table name, say like DBO TBL fruit, and then give the keyword called values, and then pass on the as many rows that you want to pass together. Consider each parenthesis. In this case we are considering this as a first row. 1 will be ID, mango will be name, 2 will be ID, grapes will be name, then the third will be 3 will be ID, and then the orange will be name. So 3 records together if you would like to insert into the table, then this is the shortcut way of doing that. So let's just insert into that. Okay, so it has inserted 3 records. But supposingly if you wanted to insert only 1 record, then how would you write the statement is like you can write it this way. Or say like you want to create multiple insert statements, then also you could write as many insert values. This part will remain same. Up to this part it will remain same, only just the row part of that will be changed. But supposingly if you want to shorten that syntax, then this is also an alternative way how we have just written it here. Okay, so that was the first pattern. Second pattern is like in case you want to change the order of the column in which the inputs you want to provide. Say like earlier we wanted to provide ID as first and name as second, whereas if you want to put in the name as first and then the ID is what you want to insert into the table, then you need to specify the column list according to that. Here we did not specify the column names, whatever the column names, because it was rightly input into the table as per the definition of the table. So it may not require the column list to be passed. But suppose if you want to change the sequence of the input, then you need to pass the appropriate column for that. Okay, like here in this case name and ID. So everywhere name and then IDs comma separated, and for each rows will be separated by comma only. Okay, so here you see every one of them is separated by comma. So let's just insert. Okay, so 6 records are there. Now we'll be inputting the unique identifier. Now unique identifier, how it creates is it uses the system function new ID. Okay, we have, if you do not understand it in detail, then for the unique identifier data types, to understand it, watch my previous videos for particular data types, so that you may understand like how this data type is being used and what are the multiple usage of the data type, right? So for now I'll be using the system function called new ID, and it will generate the new random number for that, and that random number unique identifier will be assigned to the ID column of my unique ID table, the TBL unique ID, and then it will be inserted and we'll see with the select statement what the value will be. So this is how like 5-part name it will be inserting into that table. Okay. This is how 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 like that. Now fourth kind of insert statement, how we can write it. We can write it using the identity column. So in that case, like we will not pass the ID values and we will just pass the rest of the column names. Maybe in this case, like we are passing the student name, marks obtained, and then marks out of, and then the result. So each row is there. Say like here, how many rows we are inserting is, we are inserting 8 rows together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, right? So all 8 rows are there which will be inserted into the table without passing the column name of the table, right? We are not passing the sequence column sequence. Why? Because we are passing the values in the right order, and ID will be automatically incremented. So you don't need to pass the ID column value as well, right? So let's just see that executing it. Insert statement executed, and now you see all of the 8 values are inserted rightly into the respective columns, and then result column is empty or null. Then supposingly for an identity column which is defined as an identity, if you want to manually input some ID values into that, in that case you need to explicitly set this command. You need to set this execute this command is set identity insert DBO table name basically, and then say on, which will enable you to manually input the identity values instead of letting the system decide the input value. You will be manually putting that value. Here you did not specify, here you will be specifying the ID values. Okay, that's the only difference. So after you do that, you need to turn that off as well. After you are done with the usage, like after your insert statement is complete, you definitely need to turn it off. Otherwise your subsequent inserts might not pick up the automatic insertion of the identity seed values. Okay, so we are setting the identity insert for the table as off here in this case, and then we are just listing down all the columns from the table to see how many records were manually inserted for the identity column. Let's say, yeah, so here we inserted 4 more records. Here 9, 10, 11, 12 in the sequence we inserted 4 more records through the table, and then let's just go ahead. And now what we will be trying to see is, we say like want to retrieve the data from a particular table. So far we saw that like everything is what we are manually inserting from say like we have the data, say like we have the data, we are just writing the insert scripts and inserting it into the table. But supposingly you have the data available into some source, maybe in an existing table, maybe in some different database outside the source, right? Outside the database server, another server, maybe another system. So from that, if you want to pull the data, how will you write the table name? In that case, you would write the table name like this, right? Here, suppose if this was the table, the physical table containing all these 5 fields, right? Then it will directly be run, or it can directly be run in this case. We don't need to worry about anything else, only just specify the column names, and then after from clause you will just put in the table name, and then it will just do the insert into that table. Okay, but here in this case I want to generate the table. Say like we do not have a table created, but still we would like it to be treated as a table, or you would like it to be inserted as a table. Then how can you achieve the same functionality? You will just use the same way values clause, what you use in the insert statement, the same way you will write the values clause here as well. Okay, so now you understand now how what will you write in here is values, and in parenthesis whatever columns you would like to insert the values to, you will write in that row, close the parenthesis, separate them by for each of the rows that you want to insert. Okay, and then after completion of that, you will just close the parenthesis. Okay, here you will close the parenthesis and give it an alias for the table name. because it will not identify it as a table unless you specify it as a table called DT, data table, and in that you need to specify only the table column name. You may not need to pass the data types here. You just need to specify the column names for each of these values that you are passing in here, right? Whatever values, like this value you want to call it as student name, then you give it a name called student name. You want to pass it as marks obtained, then you give it like marks obtained, marks out of, and then result. So I am just giving it the actual name, how I understand. So according to that, consider, say it has created a table on the fly. Now we are considering this part as entirely a table. Now from this table is what we want to pull is, we want to pull 4 columns, which is student name, marks obtained, marks out of, and then result, right? So all of that is what we will be inserting it into the table. Okay, so as it is in the sequential order in the select list also, we may not need to specify the insert column list, how we needed to specify it here, right? We may not need to specify it in this case. Also, there was, I forgot one point, important point, like in the case of manual insert, what you need to do is you always need to pass the column list. You can never miss this column list. Okay, always remember, you have to pass this column list along with your passing in values, because if you do not pass that, it will throw an exception saying like, it will throw an error saying like please pass on the column list. Okay, so without that, it will not allow you to manually insert into an identity column. Okay, so always remember that one. So now here, consider, say like we created this table and then we are giving it a name. So then it will just fairly insert into the student's result table. Okay, let's just see. Okay, so now it has inserted 4 more records to the table, right? Or 2 records into the table. Here like 8 records we already added, then 4, 12, and then 2 more, which is 14. So that is why we have 14 records in the table. Okay, now let us move on to the subsequent, where we want to execute the options as a literal string. Say like you do not have a physical script like written as if like this. Instead, you want it to be executed like in the form of a variable. So how can you achieve that? You need to pass in the same, you just need to copy this entire string up to here, from here to here. Okay, entire string you will just copy from outside to the inside of a single quote area, and then it will form a variable called variable SQL, and in which like the nvarchar type, and then the size of 1000. Maybe as per your need, you can just expand the size of the variable, as many characters you would like to hold into this variable, right? According to that, you will put in the size of the variable. But say like you want the value of, say like the entire SQL statement, you would like it to be there in the literal string. So then you can hold it in this variable, and now you want to insert this entire record, or say like a specific record from this table to the target table. Then this, while executing this variable, it will automatically execute as if like you ran the previous insert statement. It will execute it like you executed the previous insert statement, like this much. Okay, so it will be treated the same way. You don't need to worry about that. So only just that like it is treated in the like a dynamic SQL way. Okay, we call it as dynamic SQL. Okay, so in which basically you need to understand that wherever there is a static string that you are passing in, say here in this column we are passing like a single quoted the name, right, of a student. We were passing the single quoted name of a student in the varchar format, right? So we had the values in the single quoted value, but then dynamic string will not understand that. To make it understand, you might need to make it double quoted string. Okay, so make it double quote so that it will understand that yeah, it is a string having a value called Glenn for a particular field. So then it will be treated as if like a student name. Okay. Otherwise it will throw an error, considering say like it's not a part of this variable or a string. It is outside of that variable. Okay. For that reason you need to make sure that you ensure it by adding the double quotes for that. Now let us just execute this statement. Okay, so now it has inserted the 15th record, right? Here the last one, the last record. Okay, now very last type of insert statement, which is this, like an output clause. What is output clause? It will just display the rows with a particular output columns. Okay, basically it will just hold all those inserted records into a virtual table in the backend of a SQL server. The table name is called inserted. Always understand, this is like a particular transaction specific virtual table. So during this entire transaction, whatever insert statements or whatever records were inserted to this target table will all be inserted to this table, and all of those records, if you would like to retrieve or you would like to list down in the output, then you will write the keyword as output, put in all of those column names that you would like to see. If you want to see only two or few of this column, then also you can just change, you can feel free to change the sequence. Also then you will just write in the values clause as usual. We are as if like you are doing an insert straight away to the target table, only just that you want the say like you wanted to omit this part, say like you do not want to write a separate select statement to see all of those columns inserted by your input values. Okay, so in that case, to minimize that effort, we can directly just run this much part, and still you would see the columns which were inserted into the table. Even like the ID which was automatically incremented, that will also get listed in the output. Here in this case, as if like you are writing the select statement, same way it will be treated. Let's just run and see. Okay, so like only the last row. Why? Because we have during this execution we are inserting only one record. We are not inserting the entire table, right? For that reason it will not list you all the records, but only the records which are inserted within this transaction. Okay, so table might have more records, but or it can contain only the records whatever is inserted during this transaction only. Okay, it will not contain the previously inserted records. Okay, all right, so now let us just move on to the update command now. Now see, we already saw that the entire table we prepared for the students which is there, but we do not see a table that will have the result within. Okay, so now what we will do is we will try to update the results. Say like we do not have any result hold for the students. We did not update the students. Now we want to update the students for all the records, right? For each of the students we want to update the resulting column. How can we do that? We can just write this syntax: update, then the table name, then set as a keyword, then the column name to which you want to update equals to the case statement is what we want to write it, so that it will just apply the case condition, and according to the case condition evaluation it will set the values respectively. Whether this condition if the condition becomes true, it will pass the value as pass, or else it will be setting the value as false or fail, right? So say like the marks obtained, maybe the students marks who has obtained marks greater than or equal to 210, only those students are marked as a pass, the rest of them are marked as fail as a student. So let's just run and see. Okay, so pass and fail, everything is there. Greater than or equal to 210, which is less than 210, so that it is marked as fail, right? So now you as you just updated all of those records with a pass or fail, but now you want to classify them, like out of those past students you want to classify or you want to check like who all were the top rankers out of the class, from the entire class, or maybe all of out of those students, basically, right? Out of those students, you want to just check like how many of the students were top rankers, meaning like highest scorers, right? So in that case, what you would do is you would just check the conditions, say like select the IDs, pick the IDs of all of those students from a table called student result, where their marks obtained were greater than or equal to 270, right? So it will pick up all those students ID who has got marks greater than or equal to 270. So let's just see. Okay, so there are 6 students. Okay, basically it will bring up 6 students from this thing. Now you already understood, as you have gone through my previous videos, that which statement or common table expression, how do we write it, and what is the usage of it. It's like a temporary result set or a data set, you could say, and then you would just like it to be inserted into the target table. But before we apply the update statement, it is always a best practice to follow that you try and test your update statement, basically the final clause that you would like to write, right? The same condition you would just apply in your select statement to make sure that the right values will be updated in the column. Okay, so how can you check that is, I'm just writing all the existing columns here in the first, right? And then the actual condition I want to apply. What condition I want to apply is, I want to check wherever the result is equal to pass, then mark them as top rankers. Why? Because say like I have picked up only the records which are the top rankers only. So what it will do is it will take up all the results using this CTE-RES. So CTE-RES is basically joined up with my primary table called student result. On which column? It is joined up on the ID column. So what it will do, as it is an inner join, it will just only pick up the sixth record only. It will pick up what we have identified in this result set. So only those records are identified, and all of those records, for all of those records, it will check this condition. Whether this condition becomes true, wherever this condition becomes true, mark that values as top rankers and keep the rest of them as E's, no change, so that we will just pass the same field, so that it will not go and update anything and keep it as is, right, in the else case. So for that reason we have written this select statement. So it will show you the corrected updates, and then the previous one was like incorrect, or maybe just say like an old value. You could write it like an old value also. It's not like incorrect possibly, but you could write it like old, or say like a new updates, right? Earlier it was marked as pass, but we want to mark them as like a scorer, the top scorer, right, or ranker. So let's just run and see. So what will be the last value for that? All of those students' names were Alex, Brad, and Glenn. All 3 of the students were there, which had the marks 277, 284, 290. Actually, I have deliberately added the same students twice. That is a purpose for which like I have added it this way. But so if this is repeated even then all of their result needs to be marked as top ranker only. Why? Because the same row is repeated twice actually, right? So it's just the ID will be different for that, because it is auto sequence mode, right? It is auto incremented. For that reason the sequence number will be different, but rest of these columns will be same up to here, right? For that reason we marked all 6 rows as top rankers, so we are good at this point as per the select, meaning I do not need to worry about my update statement when it will be executed and my conditions are perfect. So how would you write your update statement now? You will go to your update statement. Here you can put in the alias name, or you could write the physical table name. It's your choice. But based on the table name you would like to mention, because there are a couple of tables in the joining condition. So how would you write it is, you would write the alias name instead of writing the physical table name, then call the set, then the field name, equals to the same condition what we had written in the case statement over here up to end, right? The same condition you would copy over here in the parenthesis to be safe and precise, so that it will just set the rightly whatever the values will be. Then we will be passing in the output clause instead of consider, say, like we do not want to write the select statement after this update statement to watch like how many records were updated. Okay, so here you may see the additional table in addition to the previously introduced tables called inserted was already there. So here what will be different in this case? Previously we saw that inserted table will contain what? It will just contain the inserted records, right, in the current transaction. But here in this case what it will do is it will just insert the latest updated values. So the updated values whatever will be retrieved, meaning like with the result or whatever will be the result of this case statement, that will be inserted into this inserted column basically, or else with the respective column values. Maybe for the resulting column it will have the result values, but for the rest of the columns it will just insert the as is values, meaning whatever was the value for a row, the same values will be inserted into that table. Okay, only just these two columns will be changed, meaning two values is what I am representing here. One value is from the deleted table. Now you will ask what is deleted. So deleted table will be referring to the old values of the existing table, meaning what was the previous result before an update happened. So in that case the previous condition was passed, and then the latest results are updated with top rankers, right? So the top rankers value will be coming out of the inserted result, which will be my updated result. Okay, and the old value, meaning like the previous value which is passed, that value will come out of my previous result, which is coming from the deleted table. Okay, clear? So the same way, updated, the old values will come from deleted, the new value will come from the inserted table. Okay, so let's just run. And importantly, like the from clause will contain the original table, the student's result table, and then we will do the join with the CT, the common table expression that we prepared here, right? Because we want to update how many records? 6 records. For what? We want to update them as top rankers, right? For that reason, we'll go here and then we'll put a join on which column? We will join it up on the ID column. So then it will be applied for and then the result will be updated. The resulting column will be updated with that, right? So now as we see, everything is updated as per the request, right? And we are listing down the output columns. The old values are represented as previous result. The new value or the updated values are represented as top rankers, and number of records are 6. So means our update ran successfully, correct? Now the same way, you, in case you did not write the output clause, you wanted to just say like you did not write this output clause, then you could just write the fairly this way also, select statement. So it would just return you the entire table. Okay, it will just return you the entire table with the pass, fail and the top rankers of the table from the table, right? So we see like the 3 records for 3 students, and then other than that there are 3 more students to that who were passed in this result, and then two students were failed. Okay, so all of that is written together in a single result. Now let us just understand the delete command. What is the delete command? Why do we use it? Okay, now difference between, let us just first of all understand that delete means we all understand that delete will just delete something from a particular table, right? Say like we inserted a record to a table. Now you updated, after that you updated the table, a record into the table. And now supposing some of the records you inserted or maybe you are no longer needing those records being there in the table, right? Maybe you have some old data, maybe you have some bad data, maybe you have some duplicate data or some of the sort of data. So now if you would like to remove such records, how can you remove them? There are 2 ways. The one way, say like all of the records of a table, you do not need any single record to be remained in the table. Means you want to clean up the entire table. You would apply the DDL command using the truncate statement. We already learned that in the DDL statements. If you did not, then you can please go and watch the previous video for the DDL commands. There I have explained it in a proper detail so that you can understand that what is the use of truncate. For you to understand now, for time being, so truncate was the DDL command and comparison with the delete command. Both are doing the same activity. Physically, you will see like no records will be left after you execute the truncate or delete. But then in the backend, how will it be different? So let us just understand. First of all, delete will do what? Delete when you need to remove a specific row. Means say like out of 1000 row from a table, you wanted to remove only 50 rows from a table, or maybe the bad data, or maybe the duplicate data. In that case, you will apply always the delete statement, because you may not have the privilege to use the truncate. Why? Because it will not provide you the filters. Because if you saw that, or if you will see here, that delete statement, the syntax of the delete statement will provide you the where clause. Okay, where clause will allow you to limit the number of records to be removed from the table. Okay, so that is the benefit which is not a part of the truncate statement. Okay, it will just remove everything together. So the first statement's answer is that is why it is not to remove the entire table only you will truncate. Otherwise, for a specific record removal, you will use the delete. Second point, maintain the identity column values in the backend. Even though it will remove the records from a table, specific records from a table, you may not see the records, but still it will retain the structure of the table in its memory. So the structure will still remain in the backend for a particular table, right? So the next time you will insert the new record, say like you out of say like 1000 records, you removed say like last 50 records, or maybe last 50 records suppose you remove. Now what will happen? The sequence was sequence auto increment, or say like identity seed will keep on incrementing, right? Like from 1 to 2 and 3 and then so on up to 1000. Say like you removed 50 records from the bottom, or maybe randomly whichever columns you removed, but what was the last record inserted to the table? It will have the ID as 1000, correct? And then the moment you will insert the new record after applying this delete statement, how will it treat? It will be treated as a 1001 as a new ID. It will not consider that see, some of the records were deleted from this table, maybe 950 records should be there, and now I need to resequence them everything together and then start with 951. No, it will not do that way. It will just randomly apply the new identity values to that, meaning increment from the last inserted value or the max record of the table, what was the ID assigned to it. It will keep on incrementing that way. So that will make a flaw in the table. So in such kind of case, whenever you want all the records be removed, then better you go with truncate. When you want to do it this way, then you need to remove it very cautiously. Okay, so you need to maintain that identity values. In that case, it will be treated that way. Now the third point requires the ability to roll back the operation. Suppose you are applying a delete operation. Okay, maybe you applied the delete operation accidentally, or maybe due to some system connectivity issue, maybe network issue, your delete statement it's disturbed, maybe your delete statement broken, did not execute successfully, maybe it's due to connection, you lost the connection to the server, maybe your query got broken, maybe your transaction failed due to running out of memory or any other system issues, right? So in that case, what may happen is you intended to remove some particular rows, and that in the real time you may not know like exactly how many records were removed during that execution. So better thing is to do is roll back everything. right? Roll back the entire delete operation, whatever you have updated, whatever you may have applied. So what it internally does is, by applying the delete statement, it keeps a track of all of those records which are getting deleted to the transaction log. Okay, so when it is logged to the transaction log, so the moment when your transaction got failed, maybe your delete statement did not perform successfully, so in that case it will roll it back completely from 1000 records to the first record. It will not remain partially executed, or it will not remain partially applied, or it will not be considered as a committed completely. Okay, so partially completed statements, if you want to roll it back completely, okay, so you will save back the original state of the table before your delete statement. So to retain that kind of information, this is the benefit of delete statement. Transaction will be the topic that I will be covering in the subsequent section, which will help you understand it more better way. But for now, just understand it. For that purpose, this rollback is beneficial, or say like delete statement will be used, and that kind of functionality cannot be achieved with the truncate. Okay, so now let us just understand one by one. The first thing, like if you are precise, right, like say I know that there are 16 records in my table, say like we already know, right, what we want to achieve. Say like we know we have 16 records in this table. What I want to achieve, I am deciding that I want only the list of students name into this table who all are my top rankers of the class, or maybe the students of a particular school, or maybe institutes, or whatever. So I want only the list of students who are the top rankers. Rest of the records I want to get rid of from this table. First thing, we want that. But here we have another challenge. We do not have just the table, we do not have just the top rankers within here. We see that we do have the duplicates, correct? We have the duplicate records for all of the top rankers, even for others also, right? But then how can you remove, or how can you get rid of them is, initially you need to apply delete statement on a partial students. Okay, say like this many students only I want to remove it. First of all, I will get rid of my past students and the failed students, so that less number of records will remain, complexity will be less. Okay, you can achieve these statements together, or you can apply this thing like logic in a single delete statement also. But for ease, or maybe for your understanding, I am just trying to split the solution in a two part, and trying to show you how the delete statement could be written in two different ways. Okay, so let's just understand. So first of all, we will just apply that select star from this particular table, where the result is in this two category. One of them is pass, or it could be fail. So just see all of those records. How many records are there? 10 records from the table, we see that. So 10 records needs to be removed. So always this is like a test strategy. Always the strategy, make it a strategy that before applying any of the updates, before applying any of the deletes, you will always prepare and see the list whether you are intending the correct number of record and the same number of records will be inserted, updated, or deleted or not. If it is right after applying this select statement, then you are good to go. Okay, never apply it in a blind faith that your delete statement always will be true, because sometimes in a production environment you might make a mistake, you never know. Maybe in a rush, maybe in out of sync, or maybe due to some disturbances, you might just run that vaguely, and then you feel that what did I do? So why to waste such things? Then better be safe for that, right? Just make it a habit, and then it will save you from difficulty. So let's just apply this delete statement now. As we saw that 10 records need to be removed, and then my delete statement will be fairly simple. Delete, then the delete table name, and where the field name in which we already saw in previous class. If you did not, then please go and watch that clause, how in clause will be used, and then you pass the multiple values, pass or fail. All of those records will be removed. Okay, sorry, execute. Let me see if it is there or not. Maybe I had it applied, delete or what. Yeah, I had it applied, means that is applied, and now we do not have the records into that table. For that reason, this doesn't have any records for passed or failed students. Let's just verify whether the passed and failed students are removed or not. Let's just see. Only the top rankers are left in the table now, correct? 6 records are left, 10 records are removed. Now out of these 10 records, how will you clean up the duplicate records? Maybe here we see, or maybe this is some small data, you can observe that only this record is repeated once or twice maybe, right? But say maybe in the real time you might never know, like it might be repeated twice, thrice, or maybe number of times, you never know, right? For that case, to be safe, we need to identify, or we need to write our statements in such a way that it will identify the duplicates correctly. To achieve, or to be safeguard, what I am trying to achieve here is I am trying to insert all of the deleted records in a new table called deleted result for a backup, or to be purpose of verification maybe, right? So let us just write it. Say like I'm writing a with statement for common table expression. What I'll be doing is select and then applying. I'm just listing down 2 of the columns. One is the ID, the second will be name, because we can based on the names you can identify like it is repeated, correct? So that you will keep it in the select. The ID will also be required because you may not know otherwise, like with the same name but with a different ID, how the student can be referred, right? Here let's say first student has the ID as 1, Alex has ID 1 as well as Alex has ID 9 as well, correct? The 2 times. So in that case ID column will help me. But now how will you differentiate between the first row, second row, or number of rows inserted or repeated, or say like a duplicated into the table? To do that, there is a window functions which will be the subsequent topic that I'll be covering in my future class. But before that, I just, for a purpose of example, I want to cover it here, that in case to identify such kind of row sequence, that whether this was the first record, consider say like when the table got the records were inserted to the table, which was the first record to the table? This Alex record was the first table to the table, correct? Record to the table. Then the second time this was inserted, so it will be given 2 as a sequence. So to give it in a right order for the particular student, how can you write that? Then row number will be the solution. What it will do is it will partition the student's name by a particular student. Say like in this table entirely, it will just partition the entire table records by the student names. Say like how many Alex are there for a particular table. So it will go and find that, yeah, this is the Alex 1, this is Alex 2. It will check like what were the, now it will identify the student names first of all. So this is the partition, okay? Now after applying partition, what it will do is it will check like the order of the ID column for them, right? What was the order, what was the ID column value for those both the values? First one was the ID as 1 and the second record was 9, right? So what we want to do, or what system will do, or what it will try to achieve is the first record will be marked as sequence number as 1, or say row number as 1 for the first record. So row, the Alex whichever came first will be marked as 1 as a row number, and then the second number as 9, okay? And 9 will be marked as second record for the Alex for a particular student name, okay? Likewise it will do for each and every student of the table. So say like there are 3 students, and for all 3 of the students records are repeated twice, correct? So likewise it will create 2 records for each of the student. Say for Alex 2 records, then Brad will be 2 records, then Glenn will be 2 records, right? So 1 2 1 2 1 2, like that it will do, okay? So let us just see it in action. Alright, so let's just run this statement to see what will my select statement do basically, right? Sorry, my mouse is hanging. Okay, yeah, so here you see Alex is coming up twice and it has marked the row number as first Alex, second Alex, Brad is first, then second, then Glenn is first, and then second. So all of these records are marked as 1 2 1 2 1 2 like that. Maybe if there are multiple records, according to that it will continue the row numbering. The moment the student name change, it will start the sequence from 1. The moment the sequence will change, say like from Brad, if it will reach to Glenn, it will again mark the seed starting from 1, then 2, then as many Glenn. Okay, likewise. So here consider, say like we have prepared the query rightly. We need what we want to achieve is what we have drafted a query here. Okay, now what we will do, we want to test that we want only the records out of this query. Okay, we want to remove which ones, only the records, which record we want to keep into the table is out of this all records what we identified here in this list. Out of those, all of those repeated records is what we want to get rid of, and we want only the first record to be there in the table. So basically how many records will remain? Only the first record, which will have a row number equal to 1. Only those records will be remained in the table, and rest of the records needs to be removed, meaning like 9 will be removed, 10 will be removed, and 15 will be removed in this case. Okay, so how can we achieve that? We need to write a select statement just to test before we apply the delete statement. So I'm just writing like select star from, say like a student result table, where I'm joining this city where the actual number of sequence I have got from there, and I'm just joining up both these tables based on the ID column, so that ID will give me unique combination of the records, and only it will pick up how many records? 6 records from this list. Okay, so 6 record will be mapped from the student result. And what, this is very important. Okay, so you need to remember that we need to have this condition. Either you write it as an AND condition, or you could write it as where clause. It's our choice. Okay, it's your choice. You could write it as where clause, or you could just turn it to condition as AND. But you need to remember that from this city E, whatever you have received here, right, from that city E, there is a column called row num, which is row number. That column value, what you want to remove is greater than 1. If you keep it by mistake, if you keep it like that, okay, then everything will be removed. If you keep it, just a minute, if you keep it like say only greater than, then what will be remain? Only the first record will remain for each of the student, and rest of the records, whichever was duplicate, then all of those records will be removed. Okay, so let us just see like whether my query is correct or not for that. Okay, so let's just run this with statement. Okay, so what are the records that will be removed is what are listed over here with the result of select statement. So 9, 10 and 15 is the correct record that I want it to be removed from the table, so that it will work, it will be fine. So my select statement is correctly written here. Now I will form my delete statement for that. Nothing much, nothing different in the delete statement and the select statement is just changing the keywords. Rest of the syntax and the conditions would remain same here, as you see. From clause till this point everything is same, one and same, no difference. Additional part I'm introducing in here is output clause was already there since we learned like insert time, or maybe we understood it in the output clause for the update statement. There also we understood that output will just output the list of columns in the result set or in the output right window. But say like you do not just want those records to be listed down in the console or in the management studio or maybe in an output, of your query, but you would like them to be inserted to a particular table for later purpose, for your reference purpose, maybe for a verification purpose, or maybe for tracking purpose. So what you could do is you could apply the into as a keyword. Okay, so what it will do is it will output all of these columns from the deleted table. Means, because see, after the delete statement will be applied, what it will do, all of this, all of the records which are getting deleted, those records will be inserted in which table? Those will be inserted into the deleted table. Okay, now there is no insert required. Why? Because there is no insert, there is no update, so only the deleted records will be inserted into the deleted virtual table. Okay, so all of this, the previous value, maybe the current value or previous value, whatever you write or give it an alias name, it's up to you. You can give it an alias name of your choice, and according to that it will do an insert to this table. But always remember that main table structure and the target table structure needs to be same, or the kind of columns that you are looking for, the kind of columns you are adding in the output clause, at least those columns according to the table, the target table, are rightly created and created for the definition, right? Maybe say like deleted result is the table that I created here, say, right? So I have created the identical structure matching to the student result table, so that there won't be any difficulty. I did not make this ID column as an identity, which was made identity into the student result table. Why? Because I want the result to be directly inserted into this table. I do not want the identity seed to apply on its own, because it will miss, or it will break my sequence. Whatever was the sequence in my student result table, I want the same sequence number, or maybe the same ID is what I want it to be inserted into this table. For that reason, I did not have the identity applied onto this table. So always be safe that whatever was the sequence number in this original table, better always you insert the same sequence number into your backup table or in your verification table, so that you can easily identify, yes, yeah, this was the original sequence and this is what the older record was, right? So that's why so I'll be just considering the same way. So output columns will remain same, only just the into clause will come. As you did not, maybe if you do not understand what into clause will do, is just like it will have the similar kind of table structure that is there in this table, and it will just do an insert into that table particularly. Okay, it will just insert into that particular table. From which table? From this table. From this table, what it will insert is the records which were deleted. Those records will be added or will be inserted into this target table. Joining is on which table? Joining with this city to my original table, which is the student result table, right? This table here outside, the original table joined with the city table, the common table expression table on ID column, so that it will fetch the right record. It will go and do the delete of the additional record, but don't forget to add this AND condition or the where condition, whichever condition you would like to add to your query. Okay, as I shown you here as well, that AND you could write here, or else you could write where clause, whichever, it's your choice. Okay. Okay, so you could do this, or you could do just an AND clause. Okay, fine, both are fine, because you want to check only the row number greater than 1, only you want to remove only the records greater than 1, then you will just run this much part. Okay, now let's just run this with statement. Okay, so 3 records were successfully affected or removed, correct? So now what we should see is, we should see only the 3 records in my target table, correct? The correct or the exact top rankers should be returned from the student result table now. Okay, let's just see. And after that, our verification table also we need to check whether the deleted records means the records which were deleted from the original. Okay, let me just move this part in the top so that I will not mess or I will not make any mistakes, and I will have this everything together run once again for the safer side. Right? Just run. Okay, we will give it like verification table for duplicates. So we'll mark it as result for duplicate records, and we are good for that, I think. Okay, let me just see I'm not missing anything other than that, right? Alright, so now let us just run one of each of them one by one. Once again we will run use create, we will just drop all the tables once again and recreate everything from the scratch once again. We'll rerun everything in a quicker mode. I will not run each and every manually or separately. I'll just run each one of them together so that it will be quicker. Right. So yeah, it has done everything in sequence up to here, right? Insert is complete. So now what we will be achieving is we will be applying the updates, right? Now we will just run everything in the updates. All right, so updates are also fine. Now we will apply the delete statements from here, right? Now we will apply the deletes. Okay, so it has all the records which are there for the original record and then the removed records. Now what we will try to see is we will try to run this select statement now. Okay, let's just run to see. Okay, so see, now it is very fine. Like completely the old record, or say like the original table, needs to have the first record and then the remaining records. The ones which you removed from the original table are inserted into the target table. That's it. So happy learning. Have a nice day. Thank you.